Okay, thanks for joining tonight's chapter chat. We're going to be discussing the reporting system this evening. If you've not jumped into the reporting system yet, it's where most of your work as chapter officers will take place for both the membership process and general administration of your chapter. Very important, so we will jump right in. The core, again, of your work as officers takes place in the reporting system. It's daunting at first. It's archaic all the time. But, we'll go through it, answer the questions you have, and try to make that as seamless as possible. All right, so I have logged in as Tennessee Alpha chapter. So if there's anybody from Tennessee Alpha on the call, you won't be able to log in for the moment. Sorry about that. This is the home page when you first log in the reporting system. Basically lists out all of the reports due throughout an academic year. My quick advice to chapters is if you fill out this home page, right, if every report has a grade and it's been submitted, then you succeeded in chapter administration on the national end. So we'll walk through them. We'll walk through some of this in depth. Some of it will be a bit more high level, but we'll cover everything as quickly as we can. So the first two sections are the membership reports. One section is for fall and one section is for spring. The vast majority of our chapters hold a fall and spring initiation. So there are two separate sets of reports. We'll dive into those in just a minute. But the annual reports are listed at the bottom. Many of these you'll note are not due until the spring. So some of them are not necessarily relevant immediately, but will be relevant. Just to touch on those for a second, the convention credentials, the ratification ballot, the financial report, and the chapter survey are all kind of year-end reports. You can access each of them by clicking the links there, and they'll take you into the menu for each item. Each of those are pretty self-explanatory. As you walk through, again, most of them are not even open to be submitted for this year, so it's hard for me to kind of demonstrate those. But just on a high level, the credentials inform us who will be the next year's convention delegate, because hopefully you've already submitted your convention credentials for this year. The ratification ballot will be to ratify any moves to any amendments to the Constitution and bylaws that this year's convention proposes. That's not an internal report, but more information can be found by opening that link up. The financial report is an annual survey style report where we gather your year-end finances. The convention expense report will be due after this year's convention. That will be necessary to receive any reimbursement for your on-site and travel expenses for the convention if you are going. Be sure to keep your receipts, and you'll use that to turn your receipts and everything in to get reimbursed. The IRS 990N is everybody's least favorite report. It has a flexible due date based on your chapter's fiscal year. So Tennessee Alpha's shows as November 15th, but yours might show as June 15th or some other date. I can't speak too much to this one, but we have a full page that walks you through this. This is an annual report required by the federal government to maintain your chapter's tax exempt status. Be sure to complete that. While it's not one that we necessarily review ourselves, we do get the confirmation that you've done that. So make sure that your chapter president or treasurer or an advisor fills that out each year. And once we receive confirmation from the IRS that you've submitted that, we'll have that listed here. The chapter survey is another annual report. We recently redid this and is just a general survey of your chapter's activities, how you approach membership and whatnot. Very critical. I know this is many, many months away and the last of your concerns, but when you do get to that point, we encourage chapters to have the outgoing and incoming officers fill that out together kind of as a transition activity. Share that information instead of new officers such as yourselves being hit with everything all at once. The final piece at the bottom is just convention attendance. That will be if your chapter attends convention. You'll see us submitted in grade soon, so that will be coming soon. On the high level, the majority of our reports, actually, I think maybe we've done this for everything. The max grade for all of our reports is a 3. So you want to see 3s here for every grade by the end of the year. If you received a 2, it may be because it was late or something, there were errors. Usually if you receive a 1, it's likely just because it was extremely late or just we weren't able to work through the mistakes or whatnot. Those are rare, but it does happen. So that's kind of a high level. Again, use this page as your home base, right? If you get this filled out and you watch the deadlines here, it's really not that hard to handle the administrative side of it, but you don't want to let yourself fall behind. For example, the fall information update is due, at least for Tennessee Alpha, by September 16th. Again, that's a flexible deadline coming up, so you'll want to go ahead and knock that out. It's usually the first report of the year, and that just provides us who the main contact is for the chapter, the shipping address for any packages throughout the year, a very quick report, confirms if your dean is a member and other logistics like that. So I would use that report as kind of like a trial run of your understanding of the system and knock that out first thing. So you'll see that again listed here. That's kind of a high level of the home page. Before I jump into the membership reports, just wanted to kind of dive into what these keys are on the left side. The membership reports function brings you to a page that just has each of these functions listed. So it's just a collection of those. Other reports has all of these. So it's just another way to access the same reports that you're seeing here. Officer resources is a new page that we've kind of put together. It's pretty much everything you could ever need to be successful as an officer. I will note that there's a critical resources section. So if you don't want to go through just everything, there's a handbook, our toolkit prepared by the SAP, and just kind of an step-by-step instructions for each of the reports right here as well. So I'd encourage taking a look at that as well. Report status is, I think, just the same thing. Yeah, same thing for you all. Chapter info has a couple of really great resources with it. Chapter statistics just kind of walks through some overall membership numbers for your chapter and other cool pieces of information you may need to share. Chapter statements has your monthly statement prepared by our accounting team. You'll see that either you have a current balance or credit for your chapter account, and those are published monthly. So you can review detailed statements here, and looking at Tennessee Alphas shows what the activity has been over the last month or so, and then what their current amount due or a credit would be in this case. Back under here, chapter information is literally just an overview of your chapter as we have it in our system. An initiation invoice, that's another cool resource we have. If you need to prepare an invoice to provide to your school, you may use this once you fill out your membership reports for a particular semester. Display invoice, and it gives you a detailed breakdown of the total cost to the chapter. Again, we charge $55 per new member at the national level, and this just gives a line item breakdown of what that cost looks like. So again, those tools are all under chapter info, and really cool. The last one is member lookup. If you ever need that and you're looking for a particular member for whatever reason, you may use this tab to do so. So the meat of what we've got actually would be the membership reports. So I'm going to use the function here to dive into that. The membership reports pretty much walk you through an initiation cycle, at least on our end. You may have your own recruitment activities and everything, but these are the three required reports necessary to be able to hold an initiation and move your newly initiated members into our membership system. The first step is the eligibility list. Now this is, or the report of eligibility. This is the main way that we get your eligibility list that you retrieve from the school into the system. There are two ways to do so. One, you can select new and manually enter every new candidate that your chapter has. It takes a long time. Instead, I would recommend pressing this download eligibility template. If you go to deliver through the browser, that's basically just download, and I'm going to open it up real quick just because this spreadsheet can be daunting at first, but not too bad once you jump into it. So this is Tennessee Alpha's eligibility spreadsheet for a new semester. So basically, when I open it up, it pre-populates with all of the currently initiated members that Tabata Pi is showing us having not graduated yet. So first of all, you get a quick list of all your current members, their email addresses, so you can contact them and whatnot. You'll just follow step by step. There's an instructions tab that gives you a more detailed approach, but you provide your chapter, the semester, which for this semester will be fall 2022, spring of next year, spring 2023, etc. The total number of juniors and seniors should equal to the total number of people that you entered times 5 and times 8 for the top 1/5 and top 8th. And then this is just a sum of the total number of eligible members. If you need to request any supplies, you can also do so here. The LAT materials or the booklets, like the information book, the Constitution and bylaws, the flat bent castings, and the paperweight castings are the rough bronze pieces that we provide that you can sand down and have polished pieces from. This is a quick way to order those materials. But basically, once I've enabled content and enabled editing, I hopefully will have a spreadsheet from my institution to be able to just copy and paste over this information. But just using like my own information as an example, if I was on here, it looked like this at the bottom, senior May 2024. Make sure everything lines up with the formatting as you see above. We'll say I'm mechanical engineering and Seacross from TV. And that's how a candidate would be listed on this spreadsheet. Again, hopefully you'll just be able to copy and paste into that, but just wanted to show you what the ideal format for that would be. Once you have completed this and have all the information added, you may email this to chapters@tbp.org, or I believe the email address we list on here is like eligibility@tbp.org. They go to the same place. We'll take care of importing that for you, and then it's into the reporting system for you. So that starts off the process. I know we've had a couple of chapters actually manually enter their candidates into the system. That's totally fine. It just takes quite a bit longer. So we recommend to use the spreadsheet import just to save you time. We don't want to take any more of your time than we have to. Closing that out and back to the reporting system. So let's assume that I finished the spreadsheet. I emailed it in. I'll get a confirmation that'll be sent by me actually saying, hey, we've imported your spreadsheet. You'll need to return to the system. At that point, you'll see, in their case, they've already knocked it out, but you'll see that it's in draft status, or it just doesn't have the submitted note here. You'll need to click the manual report input. And the main things you'll want to do is make sure everything lines up, your numbers. You can check the juniors and seniors if you so wish. You can request any supplies at that point. And the main thing that the system will ask for is an estimated initiation date. It doesn't have to be the final one just yet, but just kind of like hey, here's kind of what we're aiming for. At that point, you can press update, and then you'll be able to submit the report of eligibility, which is the first of the 3 membership steps. Before I move on, let me see. Can we make changes later if we submit the eligibility report? If it's been submitted, I believe you have to let us know when we make the manual revisions at that point. If it's the spreadsheet has just been imported, you can make revisions at that point. But if the report of eligibility itself has been submitted, headquarters is to make the revision, in which case you can email chapters@tbp.org, and we can make any revisions, add people, remove people as needed. All right, so I did want to point out a couple of other things on here real quick. If you need a quick list of your current members that have not graduated per our records, this is under the report of eligibility menu. It's a quick way to get a good roster of your members to be able to reach out to. You can also see the programs that we have eligible for your chapter to consider members from. So these are the programs that will show up on that eligibility list, the majors that will show up. If the major's not listed here, we cannot approve them as being added. So if your school gets a new major that's ABET accredited, make sure that you email us and let us know, and we'll review and get it added on here if everything checks out. I think that finishes up everything you all need to see for eligibility. So let's say I've submitted my report of eligibility. And at this point, we're going to move on to the report of election. So the terms here always kind of confuse people. The election report lets us know who you've elected to membership, which is different from who you've initiated. When you elect candidates to membership, this basically says, here's who we plan to initiate that have completed our requirements. So there's a couple of steps to the report of election. First is just opening it up. You can go by juniors or seniors. Again, they've not filled theirs out, so it's a little sample. This is due 2 weeks before your initiation at the latest. So once you've narrowed down who's interested, and if your chapter has any requirements to join, such as participating in events or some other points or interviews or anything like that, you'll use this to let us know, here's the final group we're planning to initiate. So what you'll see here are a couple of things. The candidates are listed without a present member flag. Those who have already been initiated that we have on our record show up with a Y in this tab. The main thing that you'll see here, or the main way that you'll note that a candidate is not being initiated, will be with these codes. And there's a key down at the bottom. A1 is not no interest. A2 is did not respond. B did not meet exemplary character. C is not technically qualified because of transfer rules. And D, co-op exemptions. 99% of the time that somebody does not join and is marked as rejected, it's either A1 for lack of interest or A2 for did not respond. For those that you do plan to initiate and that are interested and have accepted and knocked out your requirements and whatnot, they will be elected by the chapter and they will have accepted election. We need to have these two flags checked to narrow down to your final group of initiates. If you have 10 people you're planning to initiate, there needs to be 10 people flagged like this throughout your reports. I'll note a couple of things. A lot of people struggle to find out where the next group of names is. If you press continue, it continues on in the list alphabetically. These are all the juniors. If I go back to the election report menu, I go to seniors, same setup. You'll just flag them as appropriately here, and to continue on the list, press continue. So that's how you would narrow them down to who you plan to initiate. All electees that are marked as elected and accepted have to complete catalog cards. Since nobody's marked, that doesn't show up with me. I'll just flag somebody real quick as elected and accepted and go back. Under this catalog cards menu, then you'll see the one person that I have marked as elected and accepted here. The quickest way to get your electees to complete their catalog cards is to use this system. You can include little notes right here of, hey, when we need this completed by this week. The catalog cards, if you don't remember, are the forms that you all filled out to provide us your permanent address, other contact information, everything like that. Ideally, those are completed by the time that you submit your report of election, but they can be submitted later in the process if you need to, or if somebody doesn't respond immediately. Don't let this step hold you up, but if you have time, go ahead and knock it out ahead of time. So the catalog, that's step one of the report of election. Step two. Step three is letting us know who you want the keys and certificates delivered to. Generally, that's going to be a faculty advisor on campus. Some chapters prefer them to go to a chapter officer. If I select the chapter officer's name, you'll see that I can provide the address that I want them to go to, and then submit that address to HQ. We'll use that address to mail your keys and certificates to. As it specifies in nice big bold letters at the top, make sure that's an address that's going to be good for the foreseeable future, because sometimes with production delays and whatnot, it may take up to a month or so to get those items out. So you want to make sure it's a good permanent address and not one that you or an officer is going to be moving out from in the near future. So this process stats button kind of breaks down the whole process, right? We talked about going through the report of election. We talked about the catalog cards, and we talked about the delivery instructions just now. Once you've done all three of those, basically, you can submit the report of election. Once we receive your report of election, we review it, make sure everything checks out. If everything looks good, we issue initiation approval at that point. As you've probably heard already, do not hold an initiation without initiation approval. You'll receive an email that says, hey, you're good to go. But that means you must submit the report of eligibility and the report of election prior to holding your initiation. Again, the report of election ideally received 2 weeks prior to your initiation, just in case there are any issues. But since we're a bit more in the digital era now, within a week is fine, but try not to push any further than that, because you never know the delays it might have. So that's the report of eligibility, and into the report of election. Let's assume everything's good. I have held my initiation. I come in here to final action. This one's kind of going to be weird to simulate since we are not really there yet in the process, but did want to walk through it a little bit. Again, like the report of election, you'll actually click that you want to go into the report, and this will look much different when you actually get to, once you've submitted your report of election, the list will be narrowed down in such a way that only those that are marked as accepted election will appear at the top. That way you don't have to go through tons of names at this step in the process. The main piece, what you'll look here to do is say, okay, of the, let's say we had 10 people that we marked as we were planning to initiate. If they were initiated, which is the most common selection at this step in the process, you'll just click here, initiated, easy enough. If they did not meet requirements for whatever reason, you'll see that again, we have a key down at the bottom. A being the most common reason here, they were not interested and did not complete the requirements, or B, again, less common if they may have had a financial reason that they could not join. What we want to see is that on the report of election, you narrowed down the candidate pool to only those that you plan to initiate and those that are planning to be initiated. We don't want to get to the report of final action step and have 100 people listed here, but you only initiated 10, right? We want that to be narrowed down before this step, and then all 10 of you, the people that you plan to initiate, are initiated. The final column is for postpone. So this is somebody, let's say they had an approved reason. They had a family emergency. They had some other commitment that just could not be avoided, and the chapter didn't hold a makeup initiation or whatever reason that the chapter deems appropriate. This is somebody that, say they don't make your fall initiation and you'd like to initiate them in the spring. You can just throw in an estimated spring initiation date and they can be postponed to the spring semester. This date is just an estimation. It does not have to be any specific date or anything. It just says, hey, they weren't initiated. The chapter accepts their reason for not attending the ceremony, and thus we are postponing them to the next semester. To that end, if you had any candidates from last year that were postponed and they did not appear on your chapter's eligibility list for this semester, if you let us know, we can manually add those postponed candidates from the spring onto your fall reports. So we just have to be informed to do that, and we can knock that out. Let's see. So let's say I have then marked everybody as initiated or postponed or refused, and my final action is complete. I come into here. At this step, if you did not complete the catalog cards under the report of election, they must be completed before you submit your final action. Since we don't have a full list, what you would see is just complete right here if they were all done, right? So they have to all be done before you submit that. If you submit that and they're not all done, we won't process the report because then the membership records lack all the information we need. So don't do that. The second part of the final action is the rollbook signatures. So you each probably remember signing a physical book or signing an electronic form when you were initiated that we've had the last 2 years. This will just be uploading a copy of that rollbook page. So that page needs to have all the names of everyone marked as initiated for this particular semester. So if you had 10 initiates, we have to see the 10 signatures on that page or multiple pages and upload it here. We do check that, and we won't process it until we see the signature. So make sure that the signatures match exactly who's initiated on there. And when you're filling out, if you're having them sign the physical book, which hopefully all of our chapters are again, you'll want to make sure that they sign it and print their name so we can quickly tell who they are and get that process for you. So you'll upload that here. Again, it's got a 15 megabyte limit, so hopefully that won't be an issue, but you'll upload it and submit that here. The system checks to make sure everybody's marked appropriately and that you've uploaded a copy of your rollbook signatures. If you've done both of those steps, again, all this is after the initiation, you can then submit the report of final action. We'll see that, check for the signatures, we'll make sure all the catalog cards are done, and we'll make sure the process is complete for everything. And at that time, once we process your report of final action, all individuals marked as initiated on this report will then be added into our membership records. They'll get the nice welcome to TVP email, and we'll officially be closing out the semester. So that wraps up the membership cycle from a reporting standpoint. Again, going back to that homepage, that pretty much outlines the semester. We knocked out the eligibility, we knocked out the election, we knocked out the final actions, the rollbook signatures is part of that. In fact, this row may go away soon, just it's redundant at this point. The fees. So there's a couple of different permutations for that. Some chapters still collect money via cash, check, or whatnot, and then pay headquarters via credit card or check. That will then just be graded when you make the payment. A lot of our chapters have moved on to using the TBP store system to pay their fees. We check that on like a monthly or so basis. If you had 10 initiates and you've submitted your final action saying you had 10 initiates and we received 10 payments via the TBP store, we mark it as done and completed. So either way is fine. We just add a grade here for that cycle. We talked a little bit about initiation approval in a nice big bold red letters here. It says it's not approved yet, just because they've not done their report of election yet. Obviously, we're still pretty early on that, but once they submit the report of election and we issue initiation approval, this will turn into a green check mark with nice green letters letting them know that their initiation is approved. As I mentioned earlier, the spring cycle is just a duplicate of the fall cycle. And once they start working on their spring reports next semester, then everything will start populating that as well. But if you've not submitted the report officially, you should be able to make revisions. But if you have, you'll probably have to contact us to make the changes. Yes. So technically somebody can be, the chapter said, okay, this is who we're planning to initiate. They're elected, right? But they, for whatever reason, said, I am refusing this election. I'm not accepting this invitation for whatever reason. That's possible, right? More likely, what you're wanting to put here is, again, that A1 or A2, they're not interested, right? Or they did not respond. That covers for those that are not joining. That covers, again, like 95% of the cases. So it'll be A1 or A2. It can be these. Again, take a look at the key, but those are very rare. Otherwise, this is a person that is or the chapter says, here's who we would like to initiate, and the person has accepted our invitation, and that narrows down the list to who you plan to initiate. So hopefully that clears that up.